Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the House Local Government Committee to order. Today's meeting is regarding a public hearing on the Community Services Block Grant Program, which we are required by law to hold. So we'll be heading into hearing testimony on that shortly. But first, I'd like to call on Christina to please call the roll.
Sure. Chairman Freeman.
Here.
Representatives Borowski, Donahue.
Oh, could you announce anyone who's on leave?
A designation for Donahue?
No, leave.
Oh, on leave, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Is he on leave?
Yes.
Okay.
Representatives Fleming, on leave. Representative Haddock, on leave. Representative Hambidge, on leave. Representative Kazim, on leave. Representative Madsen, on leave. Monroe, on leave. Probst, on leave. Prokopiak, on leave. Salisbury, on leave. Representative Sappy will be virtual. Smith-Wade L, on leave. Chairman Miller.
Here.
Representatives Banta,
On leave.
Cooper,
On leave.
Fink,
Leave.
Jones, Kozak,
Leave.
Kuzma,
Leave.
Reichard,
Leave.
Rincabbage,
Leave.
Watro,
Leave.
Weekneck, Wentling.
On leave.
And I was told some of the folks on leave might actually be joining us at some point in the hearing, so they could be coming by as well. Before we proceed with our agenda, I would like to call upon Chairman Miller to lead us in the pledge to the flag. So would everyone please rise?
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it is one nation, God, indivisible, justice.
Thank you, Chairman. We'll begin with some opening remarks. I just want to touch on a few points regarding today's hearing. The Community Services Block Grant Program, or CSBG, is a federally funded program that helps low-income families achieve self-sufficiency. CSBG funds are allocated to certified community action agencies or local governments based on an entitlement formula. The grants are used to provide important services to Pennsylvania communities, helping to combat poverty in all 67 counties of our Commonwealth. Community action agencies play a vital role in fighting poverty at the local level. They set priorities based on 3-year community needs assessments and uses a continuous improvement performance management system to deploy resources effectively. The unique board structure of Community Action Agency helps to foster community building efforts by including equal representation from individuals experiencing poverty, local elected officials who sit on the boards, and community advocates and service organizations. However, in order to be eligible to receive a grant or allotment under the Federal Community Services Block Grant Act, each state is required to hold at least one legislative hearing every 3 years, and that's the reason for today's hearing. And that's done in conjunction with the department, DCED. Today's public hearing fulfills that requirement. For background, Community Service Block Grant Program has been funded federally at $770 million over the last 5 to 7 years. Pennsylvania has received approximately $32 million in community service block grants, funding annually over the last 5 to 7 years out of that $770 million. And that puts the Commonwealth in the top 10 largest allocators, or allocations. Pennsylvania has a total of 42 eligible entities, 8 of which are public entities, with the remainder being private nonprofit entities. It also has one statewide training and technical assistance provider as well. And I should note, just for background, that many of our community action agencies have had to shut down or furlough their employees due to the federal budget impasse. And hopefully that will be resolved soon, because many people in our communities depend upon the goodwill and efforts by our community action agencies. With that, I'll turn to Chairman Miller, if you have any opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my remarks will be short, just to say I'm looking forward to this hearing to learn more about this program and how we can see that it is even better to serve as many people as possible. So with that, thank you very much.
Representative Kazim has joined us too, so she'll be added to the roll call. Well, to begin our hearing, our first panel is Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, Rick Villallo, Deputy Secretary for Community Affairs and Development, and Kelsey McMurlis, Director for the Center for Community Services. Welcome, and feel free to begin your testimony. Mr. Secretary, is your mic on? The button's green, right? Okay, we were having trouble here.
Nope, now it's
Oh,
greener.
good, okay, thank you.
Wasn't quite as green. So we administer the program for DHHS. We are fifth when it comes to states on the amount of allocation. California, Texas, New York, and Illinois receive more funds than we do. And we partner with 42 community action agencies to distribute the $32 million in federal funding. And that funding is used to directly address the issues of poverty in the state plan. The state plan is developed with DHHS oversight every 2 years. There's public hearings to develop the state plan, and we partner with the 42 local agencies and boards through input to address those needs. It really is a useful tool, one of the most useful tools, and it is often confused. Everybody understands or knows the Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG, and oftentimes CSBG is overlooked or confused. And both programs fall under my umbrella at DCED, and the best way that I can explain it is CDBG is infrastructure, sewer and water and handicap ramps and community assets that can't be physically moved, and CSBG is people. So one is hard infrastructure, the other are programs to assist people. And $29.2 million go directly to the 42 community action agencies that cover all 67 counties. And out of that, the community action agencies, actually, this is one of the most surprising statistics. The community action agencies leverage $17.84 for every federal dollar that goes into them to provide services for employment services, workforce development projects, education, cognitive development, economic mobility, financial education, housing investment, blight remediation, health and nutrition education, and social and behavioral development projects. And the 42 agencies receive their allocation through a formula depending on the population, because some are multi-county, 42 serve 67 counties. The formula is based on the census of their footprint, their unemployment status, and their poverty rate. Develops the formula for the distribution of the $29.2 million. And last year, Pennsylvania's poverty rate was under the national poverty rate at 11.6%. And then the remaining $3 million is administration and discretionary money for competitive pilot programs and specific projects identified in the state plan to distribute to, on a statewide basis. There's a high level of flexibility in working with the local boards, the local community action agencies to deploy the money. The purpose is really to lift people out of poverty, to give them the tools, and it's been fairly successful. 450,000 Pennsylvanians were served last year through CSBG dollars. 7,700 received housing improvements, weatherization, and energy efficiency programs. 43,000 individuals received financial and housing, how to balance a checkbook, how to, save for buying a house, educational processes. 94% of individuals were provided educational services around nutrition and food needs and behavioral health and wellness services. And then there's one statewide training and technical assistance partner for education. The leveraging the dollars, the 17 and change dollars leverage for every dollar invested is really impressive. And the local board interaction is really impressive. And the boards leverage the money and dollars to have over 750,000 volunteer hours providing community services. So one of the impressive things for me being a former mayor is how the community action agencies actually engage our friends and neighbors to improve the lives of Pennsylvanians and really lift people out of poverty. And there was a 10% decrease in individuals requiring CSBG services in the last year. So, seeing those people actually get lifted out of poverty and the decrease in the overall percentage of poverty in Pennsylvania is really rewarding. And this hearing is required through the legislation for an update. And we have some of our community action agency partners will testify after Kelsey and I. But when we look at the flexibility and how it works hand in hand with, local elected officials, the local board, the local service agencies, it's pretty meaningful and really making a difference in the lives of those that most need lifted out of poverty. And I'll take questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I should note that we've been joined by Representative Fleming and Representative Haddock as well, who will be added to the roll call. Just a couple of quick questions on my part, then I'll turn it over to the members. You had mentioned in your testimony a couple of times that for every dollar, they leverage $17. Do you know where most of that $17 comes from? What sources?
Yeah, some of those sources could include both public and private funding. So a lot of our community action agencies are also weatherization agencies. They also could be Head Start, WIC providers. So that's an example of some of the public sources, and then also private.
As well. So do they reach out to foundations? For instance?
Foundations.
Yep.
Yep.
And also individual giving.
Yeah, I have to say, I think the community action agencies do an outstanding job, and your testimony speaks to that. We're very fortunate to have Dawn Godshaw from the Lehigh Valley Community Action. Looking forward to her remarks as well. But they do an outstanding job in the Lehigh Valley, and it really has helped to reduce levels of poverty and to help people in need get back on their feet, which is obviously their intent. A job well done. With that, I'd like to turn to Representative Kazim, who has a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you so much for your testimony. I wanted to make a comment before my question and say that I am familiar with the Community Block Grant. I love the Community Block Grant, and I appreciate this effort. And I believe that Community Action has done a fantastic job, I can say, from our county over the few years in Delaware County, really allocating the funds where it is needed. And there was always this strategic process, especially between the agency and the landlords, and even when individuals go online to apply, whether it was through housing assistance, weatherization, improvement in their homes, improvement in their homes. And I always felt that that was a great process. I would love to see this grant continue. And I would also encourage communities to invest their time and their efforts to learning more about this grant, especially if your district has never participated before. I know in Delaware County, they usually identify areas that they feel fall under the federal poverty guideline, and that's how they allocate it. However, which is leading into my question, I know you're asking about legislation, but do you think that it's necessary, just given where we are right now? And I can say over the last few years, I feel that a lot of people are struggling right now, even with just rental costs, and we're finding more people that may not be under the federal guidelines set, but we clearly know that they are struggling. So I feel that here in PA, can we increase the eligibility for individuals to have the opportunity to apply for these type of program and services here in the state? I'm one that always felt that the federal guideline did not always reflect the state because our cost of living, our economics and everything plays a factor. So is that an opportunity for that to happen? That's my first question. And then I have a second one, and that's it.
Think there would be an opportunity to have that conversation. We're really fortunate in Pennsylvania that our congressional delegation understands the CSBG program and who it serves, and that it really is Pennsylvania-wide. And Congressman G.T. Thompson has proposed reauthorization, which would carry us through 2032. So in a time when, there's uncertainty about the future of so many federal programs, it really is bipartisan support, but any flexibility or discretion that we could get through the congressional, oversight would make it even better. The more flexibility to address individual needs, the overlap between rural and urban, and all of that. But when you look at other states and what's going on, it really is important to see Congressman Thompson's leadership and pushing for reauthorization through 2032.
Okay, so do you?
I can
go
add
ahead,
to
please,
that is
please.
that with the federal continuing resolutions that have been continuing for the past few years, agencies are able to serve individuals up to the 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, and so the reauthorization bill would also allow that, would increase that percentage to serve more individuals.
Okay.
To serve more individuals. Yep.
Great, thank you so much. And the legislation that you're saying that we now would need, is there any room, because I also see where sometimes individuals reach out, the agencies usually need participation from the landlords as well. And what happens is that sometimes the landlords do not provide all the documentation on time, or they're not really communicating, or they're not really being responsive, which still puts residents at risk to lose that opportunity. Is there anything that we can do or things that we can put in place that would help individuals still be able to receive this support, even if their landlord is not being attentive or supportive, because this happens a lot, I can say in Delaware County and in my district, where landlords are not responding. So individuals, especially our seniors, are missing opportunities to receive this kind of assistance. So I would love to see that room or legislations be put in place that includes that. But is there anything that you feel that can be included to make sure that we have a backup plan if, in case that does happen?
Absolutely. So that, I would say, so the beauty of community action is that not all community action agencies are the same.
Right.
And so that really is difference between service areas. I would love to have a conversation after this about what you're seeing in your area, just to understand a little bit more of what's happening.
Okay.
And so for instance, some community action agencies may not have housing services and work with landlords, and some might, just depending on what the needs of that service area are. So that's definitely something that is a case-by-case
Okay.
situation. But I would love to have a further conversation afterwards and kind of
Absolutely.
hear a little bit more about what's happening with that landlord
Okay.
relationship in Delaware County.
Thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. And that's all my questions.
Great.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
I thank the lady for her questions. I just wanted to note that we've been joined by Representative Prokopiak and also Representative Cooper, who will be added to the roll call. And we have some guests with us I just want to acknowledge. There are some graduate and undergraduate students from the Pennsylvania Science Policy Coalition. They are here today for a Hill Day to meet with representatives, and they represent schools across Pennsylvania, including the University of Penn, Pitt, and Penn State. If they would please rise to be acknowledged. You want to rise to be acknowledged? Thank you. Thank you for being in attendance.
Can we encourage
and-
them to look for work in local government?
Always an option. Oh, and I neglected to mention that Representative Haddock has also joined us and will be added to the roll call. With that, is there any questions from the other members? Seeing none, I'd like to turn to Chairman Miller, who had some questions.
Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it. Several questions. One is on the CSBG state plan application that we have here. Just curious, on, let's see, page 8, it talks about the state office organizes state plan work group open to all 43 agencies, but you testified that there's 42.
There was a merger with Blair and Cambria counties. So there was 43, now there's 42.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Obviously, this is a program that's statewide, impacts a lot of people, $32 million budget. What is working well?
The flexibility, I think, is the strongest part of the program, and allowing the local agencies and local boards to kind of follow the state plan and deploy the state plan on a local level. The flexibility in identifying needs and addressing those needs on a 2-year basis is the beauty that I see in it. While we're still, maintaining all of the federal requirements, we're monitored and audited through DHHS every 2 years. But, being a former local elected official, and when everything isn't prescribed, ABC, you have to do this, and that you're addressing needs in each community. While there's similarities, the percentages are different, but I would say that's what's working the best. Now, all of the agency, I'll wait for the next question if the next thing is what's not working well.
That was my next question.
The challenge is, some of the agencies, some of the boards rely on volunteers, rely on, locals, and that's getting more and more challenging to get people to step up for committees and, come to meetings and do of all those things to make it function well. Some are very high functioning, some less so. And we're constantly working with them, those that need technical assistance. Some need, boardsmanship training, but we watch, through the state process, we kind of watch those agencies and provide direct assistance when we know those are some of the issues. But, when we look at our local government, even, local boards, the library boards, the United Way board, zoning hearing, planning commission, all of them are struggling usually for volunteers, and CSBG and community action agencies aren't always the most glamorous boards to raise your hand and say. So that's a challenge going into the future too, as we get older and retire, making sure people are stepping up into those roles.
Okay, thank you. You had mentioned that you're dealing with the people component of this whole issue. So the question I have is, how are you measuring the effectiveness of what you're endeavoring to do? Your mission is outlined in the state plan, is basically to help people, to get them into a place of where they're not dependent upon social services, they can do things and so forth. How are you measuring that, the effectiveness of what you're doing?
We watch the poverty numbers in each region, and that's part of the funding formula. And then unemployment numbers work into the formula, but then under my deputate, we also have the Center for Local Government Services, and part of that is the Act 47 distressed community component. And part of that, we monitor the local municipal governments and conditions through the early warning system, where we measure a lot of the census data, the housing data, and education levels, and all of that. So, when we're putting the state plan together, we're watching those numbers carefully and, visiting and providing technical assistance to those regions that might be moving up or down in position relative to poverty rates and things like that. So we were really encouraged to see the poverty rate go down to 11.6% and, 50,000 less clients needing the services of CDBG. We saw as pretty significant, especially after the last few years. Those numbers were way up during COVID and coming out of COVID. So to see them trending down is really significant.
And if I may add, so we also, per CSBG legislation, are required to provide risk assessments and monitoring to all of the agencies. And so this allows us to understand what's happening with the organizational standards at for each organization, and then continue and say, hey, this is where we can provide technical assistance to ensure that the organization is stronger and can provide stronger services to ensure that we are serving Pennsylvanians.
Can you talk about you mentioned earlier about the fact that you're audited federally. Talk about what that audit is and what does that look at?
Sure. So we were audited last year, 2024. So they look at fiscal. So a lot of fiscal documentation, our risk assessments, as I just mentioned. They will make site visits to 2 or 3 different local agencies. Actually, one of the site visits was to Tri-County, who will be speaking in a little bit. They also talk to us on a programmatic side to say, hey, how are how are you operationalizing, and what are your different directives. So they'll look at our directives. They look at our state plan, of course. Any documentation that we have, they will monitor. And then actually last year was the first year they've kind of shifted the way that they were making monitoring visits, site visits. So they did a lot of prep and looking at all of these documents before they visited, and then they were on site for 4 days, just asking a series of questions based on the documentation.
Okay.
So, and a lot, I would say a good portion of it is that fiscal portion.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now, so thank you very much.
I thank the chairman. Representative Fleming has a question.
Good morning. It's great to see you both here today. I appreciate everything about the Community Services Block Grant Program, and I want to hone in on an area that's near and dear to my heart as a former child advocate. I was looking through some of the data and see there are a large number of children that get served. Do we, as we all know, children can't work for themselves. They can't provide for themselves, right? They are, kids are sort of at the mercy of their own circumstance. And, that's how I grew up for a portion of my childhood. So do we have any data that we collect on sort of a long-term, how this Community Services Block Grant helps families, and particularly children, sort of get out and reach that next rung of the economic ladder?
So, yes and no. So we do collect a lot of data. Now, speaking to the second part of that, how following children necessarily, maybe for 13 to 18 years over their lives, not as much. However, that is definitely something. There are certain agencies, depending on their services, that may have something more similar to that.
Yeah, and even if we can collect anecdotes, even if it isn't like, even if we don't necessarily require it as part of the data collection, if we can collect stories, because I think that would help.
We definitely have
Okay,
that.
yeah,
Yes.
I know, like I said, I went through some economic hardship growing up, and so, and it's shaped who I am today and how I govern today, quite frankly, so, or how I seek to govern, so.
And we can share some of the specific child and family data with you when we return, if need be.
I thank the gentleman. Just a couple of follow-up questions on my own as well. How often do the funds get distributed?
So it's annually, so we're appropriated annually through Congress, and then depending on the federal budget, let's say a budget is approved for a full year, they'll release it quarterly. They'll release the allocations to each state. And then, however, the last 2 or 3 years has been a little different because there's been continuing resolutions. So we've been releasing the funds out when we receive notification from DHHS.
And those are pass-through funds. They come to
Correct.
to DCED, and then we appropriate them as a General Assembly.
Correct. Yep.
And the department, the federal department that oversees that is HUD, I assume.
HHS.
Oh, HHS. Okay, thank you. And one final question. Actually, this is something for the panel that's coming after you as well. They do such a wide array of excellent services that really help a lot of people in poverty who are struggling, help to get them back on their feet. Is there one area in particular which seems to be struggling as far as them being able to provide services? Not their fault, but just maybe in terms of the dynamics of the community or of costs?
It's a hard question.
What comes to mind is possibly housing.
Yeah, I was going to say housing is the first that comes to mind.
Yeah. And
Housing.
that varies from region to region, I'm
Yes,
sure.
correct.
But coming from the Lehigh Valley, and I'm sure our Lehigh Valley Community Action Committee person will talk to it to some extent.
The first two that came to my mind were housing and food security are kind of the top two. And the education around those issues, when we look at some of the locations, there's food deserts to overcome, there's challenges with distribution, and they go hand in hand with the housing issues. And that's one of the, nice parts of CSBG is the holistic approach that, you're looking at housing, food, education, employment, all of those things, and trying to improve them, all at once, almost on a case-by-case basis.
Which
But
is commendable, because you have to look at the whole picture.
the whole
when it comes
picture,
to
and-
poverty, yeah.
But housing and food would be probably my top two.
And I think those are probably predominant in the Lehigh Valley as well. And also, is there services that they provide in the way of transportation?
Yes. Again, it all depends on the service area and what the need is. So I'm just going to say, for instance, with Representative Kazim's area in Delaware County, probably more likely to provide public transit passes, and some service areas may have to, depending on if they're more rural, provide transportation based on that need.
Because obviously, if you're getting out of poverty, if you're trying to go on your feet and you're looking for employment, you have to
Yes.
get to the place where the job is,
Yes,
too.
so transportation is definitely a piece of this. It could be part of the job training component. It could be an extra service. It all varies based on the needs of that service area.
I see. Thank you. Are there any other questions by the members of our panel? If not, we thank you for your testimony today and appreciate your support for the
I
program.
think we scared the students away.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for coming. Our next panel will be Community Action Agency representatives. Beck Moore, who's Chief Executive Officer for the Community Action Association of Pennsylvania. Dawn Godshaw, who is from my native Lehigh Valley and is Executive Director of the Community Action Lehigh Valley. And Jen Wintermeyer, Chief Executive Officer of the Tri-County Community Action. Please come up to the table, and we look forward to your testimony. And I just ask that whoever goes first, well, as you go in sequence, please identify yourself for the members of the committee. You can begin at any time.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Beck Moore, and I'm the CEO of Community Action Association of Pennsylvania, the training and technical assistance provider that our friends at DCED mentioned earlier. I'm honored to represent the 42 community action agencies that make up Pennsylvania's statewide network. Together, they employ more than 4,800 staff and serve over 450,000 Pennsylvanians last year. As a team mentioned before, every community action agency is governed by a tripartite board, and this structure ensures accountability, transparency, and most importantly, the deep connection to the people and places we serve. CSBG is what makes the local responsiveness possible. It's not a single program, it's the infrastructure that allows agencies to assess local community needs, engage community partners, and design solutions that truly fit. Each agency conducts a community needs assessment and hears directly from residents, employers, and local leaders about the barriers families face and the opportunities that they see. This process ensures that local programs are built from the ground up, so even within a single county, approaches may differ from neighborhood or township, reflecting unique populations, economies, and local priorities. Because of this model, community action agencies are often the most trusted local convener, creating jobs, expanding services, and fostering grassroots economic development that keeps resources circulating within our local community. For example, in Bedford and Huntington counties, the Center for Community Action leveraged just $463,822 in CSBG funds, and that equated to then securing over $29 million in additional grants. Those funds supported reentry housing, GED tutoring, including programs inside county jails, and food security work like the Huntington County Food Consortium. That's the power of CSBG. It multiplies impact and closes the service gaps, and allows local problem solvers to lead. CSBG is the glue that binds together the services that families rely on most, like linking early childhood education, Head Start, weatherization, housing, employment, transportation, health, financial empowerment, and more into a coordinated network of support. Agencies meet families where they are, not where a categorical program says they must be. A Head Start parent who's struggling with housing can be referred to rental assistance. A senior receiving home weatherization may also get connected to food or energy support. A newly employed worker can access financial literacy coaching or transportation to help sustain their job. This whole family, whole community approach ensures that people don't just survive their current challenge. They move toward long-term stability. And because CSBG funding is flexible, agencies can pivot quickly to address emerging crises, whether that's a plant closure, a housing shortage, or a community health need. That local adaptability is what makes the Community Action Network such an effective engine for both family advancement and community economic development. When families stabilize, local businesses thrive, schools perform better, and local tax bases strengthen. At the state level, CAP serves as both a backbone organization and innovation hub, strengthening the entire network through training and technical assistance and capacity building. 98% of our participants rated our training and technical assistance as excellence. We have our CAP Learn learning management system that now includes over 3,000 active users within the employment of the Community Action Network, where learners can learn at their own pace and time amid other responsibilities, and making it one of the largest professional development platforms of its kind in the state. Through CAP Learn, we've launched courses on leadership development, customer service, board engagement, and community actions partnership with healthcare. And we don't just serve Pennsylvania. Our learning infrastructure now supports other states like Alabama, Oregon, Nebraska, Minnesota, Kansas, Washington, and soon Connecticut and Texas, extending our state's expertise nationwide. Even at the association level, CAP blends and braids funds to amplify its reach. Two initiatives stand out that I want to make sure to draw your attention to. One, the diaper demonstration pilot grant, also through HHS, in partnership with the Western PA Diaper Bank. We coordinate community action agencies and other nonprofits to distribute diapers and baby supplies across 8 Western counties. In 2024, this effort provided over 860,000 diapers to over 3,900 families and connecting over 3,800 individuals to other health economic supports. It's a first-in-the-nation model showing how community action can scale national resources through local delivery. The Disaster Case Management Program is another example of CAP's efforts on a statewide basis. Following Tropical Storm Debbie in August 2024, CAP coordinated recovery efforts with DHS, PA211, and local agencies in 4 counties. And by mid-2025, our program has now assisted over 455 households, connected 1,300 individuals to ongoing recovery supports, and built a stronger, more unified response system for future disasters. These examples show that even beyond direct service, CSBG's framework enables statewide coordination and rapid response when Pennsylvanians need it most. CAP partners directly with DCED to ensure consistency and excellence across the network. We host biweekly coordination calls, annual conferences, and ongoing performance support, and we strive to ensure that every agency operates with transparency, compliance, and most importantly, innovation. Through PA Navigate, the state association also is the community engagement partner. PA Navigate is the statewide closed-loop referral platform connecting healthcare providers and community-based organizations across the Commonwealth. We're strengthening referral networks and addressing social determinants of health. And in just 1 year, CAP facilitated over 50 training sessions, onboarded 448 programs, and led over 100 presentations introducing this statewide system. Behind every program and data point are real families regaining hope. In Blair County, the Mountain Lion Backpack Program, supported by CSBG, provides food to over 1,100 students weekly. And across the Commonwealth, over 450,000 Pennsylvanians again benefited from community action programs last year alone. From children in Head Start and early learning classrooms to seniors receiving weatherization upgrades and veterans achieving stable housing. These are not one-time transactions. They are transformations made possible because local agencies have the flexibility to respond, adapt, and innovate. Community action is not just about fighting poverty, it's about creating possibility. CSBG is the foundation that allows this network to do both, to respond quickly in moments of crisis and to invest deeply in long-term economic growth. Flexible and accountable funding, Pennsylvania's community action agencies help families move from crisis to stability, communities from fragmentation to collaboration, and local economies from stagnation to strength. I want to thank you for your continued support of the Community Services Block Grant and for standing with us in ensuring that every Pennsylvanian has not just only what they need to survive, but what they deserve to dream, grow, and to thrive. So I want to thank you, and now send it over to Dawn from Community Action Lehigh Valley.
Thank you for your testimony. We will have the panel give their testimony before we open it up for questions. So,
Thank you. And I did revise the end of my testimony, so I will send an updated one through the email.
I don't think your mic is on.
Well, it's green. Okay, I'll move it closer. Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chairman Freeman and members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is Dawn Godshall, and I serve as the Chief Executive Officer of Community Action Lehigh Valley. Community Action Lehigh Valley is headquartered in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Each year, we serve more than 20,000 individuals and families across 6 counties: Lehigh, Northampton, Monroe, Wayne, Carbon, and Pike counties. Our core program areas include housing and neighborhood revitalization, which includes weatherization, food access and nutrition, youth and family development, and economic empowerment. We distribute CSBG funding across 8 of our 11 programs. Our annual budget last fiscal year was approximately $42 million. That includes $23 million in cash and about $19 million in purchased food. Our budget was supported by a mix of 41% federal funding, 42% private funding, 12% state funding, and 5% local funding. The Community Services Block Grant accounts for roughly 7% of our annual budget and is essential to our ability to respond to community needs. Our staff typically includes over 100 professionals who work across our service areas, from direct client support to program administration. However, since multiple cuts in funding, a little over 30% of our staff have been laid off. We now have a staff of 68. The majority of our staff, 1/3, work at our Second Harvest Food Bank program, helping to fight food insecurity. The 6-county area we serve is home to over 1 million people. Families in the region are diverse, single-parent households, multi-generational families, seniors living alone, and families with children. About 11% of the population lives below the federal poverty level, with higher rates among children, up to 19.5% in some counties. And seniors. Poverty is concentrated in urban centers and distressed zip codes, but rural poverty is also significant. Some of the major challenges in our region are food insecurity, affordable housing, employment, education, childcare, mental health services, and transportation. Second Harvest Food Bank is just one of our 11 programs, and it serves an average of 120,000 people per month. With food insecurity rates at 12.8% overall and 17% for children, Black and Hispanic families in our region experience food insecurity at much higher rates, 24% and 26% respectively, compared to white families at 10%. Last year, we distributed about 16 million pounds of food to over 200 area pantries that then distribute food to our neighbors in need. High housing costs and limited affordable housing stock are persistent challenges. Shelters and housing programs in our area support over 1,500 families annually, helping them achieve stability and financial independence. Other needs in our region include a lack of affordable childcare for working families, limited access to mental health services, and transportation gaps which hinder access to jobs, education, and healthcare, particularly outside urban centers. Despite these challenges, the region benefits from strong community institutions, active nonprofit networks, and collaborative efforts to address poverty, food insecurity, and housing stability. Included in my written testimony is key data by county that details the population, poverty rate, median income, food insecurity, and unemployment rates in all of the counties that we serve. CSBG funding is foundational to Community Action's work because it provides flexible funding that can be deployed wherever the need is greatest. Unlike many restricted grants, CSBG dollars are not tied to a single program or population. This flexibility allows our agency to respond quickly to emerging needs when a family faces an unexpected housing crisis, or when food insecurity spikes due to economic downturns or natural disasters. It allows us to pay for salaries of our staff, which are the backbone of direct service delivery, so that vital programs continue uninterrupted. CSBG supports holistic, whole-family approaches, ensuring that staff can work together to address overlapping challenges, such as housing instability, unemployment, and lack of childcare. CSBG funding is critical because it provides wraparound support, allowing us to offer comprehensive services that address the interconnected needs of families rather than treating each issue in isolation. Please allow me to illustrate the impact of CSBG funding. I grew up in the foster care system. Both of my parents died before I was 12. I didn't ask to be orphaned. I didn't plan to be without a home. I didn't intentionally get on the system. I didn't want to need assistance from SNAP or TANF. It wasn't my desire to be food insecure or to need help. These are similar challenges faced by so many of the families we serve at Community Action. It was through similar funding that schools and programs that were available to me and helped stabilize my life so that I could go on to get a good education and grow up to run the largest nonprofit in the Lehigh Valley. Those programs gave me enough of a hand up to be able to go on to do well in school. Hungry children struggle to concentrate. CSBG funding helps us to pay for operations and staff who run our programs. We can't distribute food without the people to drive the trucks and deliver the food. We can't help homeless families without staff to offer supportive services to get them stabilized again. Many people live paycheck to paycheck. A job loss, a medical emergency, a home heating system that breaks down during inclement weather. These are real issues that people face every single day. Children who are hungry and who go to school just to get the free breakfast and lunch because it may be all that they get to eat that day. Families facing homelessness for the first time ever. Senior citizens who rely on that box of food so that they can save money to purchase vital, life-saving medication. Single parents who desperately are trying to provide for their families, but whose rent went up hundreds of dollars a month after the pandemic. These are not imaginary scenarios, but actual life stories of real people like me. CSBG funding helps us to pay for the staff who assist these families. It helps us to provide programming that doesn't give them a hand out, but that provides services to get them back on their feet. These examples are not isolated. They reflect the broader impact of CSBG across our community. We are community builders, problem solvers, and partners in resilience. These stories are the lived experience of your constituents and our neighbors. I urge you to continue investing in CSBG and in the work that we do at Community Action, which we have been doing for more than 60 years. In closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the members of this committee and to all legislators who have supported the Community Services Block Grant. Your investment in CSBG is not just a line item in a budget. It is a lifeline for thousands of families across our region. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I know a couple of members have questions, but we'll hold those until the final panelist has a chance to speak.
Thank you, and good morning, Chairman Freeman, Chairman Miller, and members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Jen Wintermeyer, and I serve as the Chief Executive Officer of Tri-County Community Action. Tri-County Community Action is the local community action agency in Cumberland, Dauphin, and Perry counties. We assist over 30,000 people annually through our 4 core program areas, which include early childhood and family development, housing security, community development, and self-sufficiency through employment, education, and financial empowerment. We have probably one of the smaller budgets for a community action agency. Our annual budget is approximately $3.5 million, which is approximately 50% public or government funding and approximately 50% non-government or private funding. The Community Services Block Grant accounts for just over $1 million of our funding annually. Our work is led by a 15-person tripartite board of directors, and we have 45 staff positions stationed across all 3 of our service counties. Tri-County Community Action represents a diverse region in South Central Pennsylvania. Our service area includes just under 600,000 residents spread across nearly 1,700 square miles of mostly rural and suburban communities. Harrisburg is our largest metro area, yet with fewer than 50,000 residents, even our capital city feels like a small town. But we're home to major military installations like the U.S. Army Heritage Center, the Army War College, the Defense Logistics Agency, and Naval Support Activity. We have world-class health systems and hospitals affiliated with Penn State Health, WellSpan, and UPMC. We are a region rich in opportunity, supported by universities such as Penn State Health, Shippensburg, Messiah, Temple, and Harrisburg University. And we are the fastest growing region in Pennsylvania. But with that abundance comes significant need. Over 57,000 of our residents live below the federal poverty line, and nearly 1 in every 4 of all of our residents are considered economically insecure. Public transportation is limited, with 95% of our workforce requiring a private vehicle in order to reach their jobs. And rapid warehouse development has brought heavy traffic, environmental strain, and a growing sense of disconnection among our communities. Based on our 2024 Community Needs Assessment, we found that workers in our 3 counties earn less on average than their counterparts across the state, with child care costs remaining high, about $14,000 a year for a single child. Rural isolation and the limited access to essential services were identified as major barriers for many of our residents, who also reported long wait times for mental health care and higher than average rates of frequent mental distress among community members. At Tri-County Community Action, we know that addressing these challenges takes more than a single program or intervention. Community action agencies don't just provide services. We integrate support across entire families using a multi-generation whole family approach that links community development with individual and family well-being. By combining data with deep community connection, we create comprehensive, collaborative solutions that lead to real and lasting change. The Community Services Block Grant is the foundation that makes all of this work possible. It's not a single program. It's the core funding that allows every community action agency to build, coordinate, and sustain a local response to poverty. It gives us the flexibility to move quickly, fill the gaps between categorical programs, and help people facing complex barriers that no single system can solve alone. CSBG turns emergency assistance into long-term change, and it's what keeps the safety net from unraveling. I'd like to share a few stories from right here in our Tri-County community, stories that show what CSBG makes possible every day. These aren't abstract programs or line items. They're people. And CSBG is often the only flexible funding that allows us to meet people where they are and respond to what's really happening in their lives. I'll start with Meredith, a widow living in Harrisburg, and she lives on less than $900 a month. One afternoon, her electricity and with it, her oxygen machine were shut off. She called everyone she could, and no one could move fast enough. With only a few hours of oxygen left, somebody told her to call us. When Robin, one of our housing security coordinators, answered, Meredith was in an absolute panic, as you can imagine. Robin acted quickly, mobilized the funds to restore her power before her oxygen ran out, and then she helped Meredith enroll in a long-term utility assistance program and rebuild her budget into something more manageable. That single intervention didn't just keep the lights on. It likely prevented a medical emergency and a costly emergency department visit, and it allowed Meredith to remain in her home with dignity and independence. Then there's Heather. When she first reached out to us, she was worried about her daughter's development. What she didn't share right away was that she was also in an abusive relationship. She felt trapped because she wasn't working, didn't have any of her own money coming in, and was embarrassed by her situation. Our family development coordinator, Chrissy, recognized the signs right away and began on building trust with Heather while also ensuring that her daughter was meeting developmental milestones. Christy was able to connect Heather to safety and support, and within months, Heather left that abusive relationship, found a job in stable housing, and enrolled in community college where she is now studying social work. Her daughter is thriving in daycare and preparing for kindergarten. Heather's progress wasn't one program. It was the result of a system flexible enough to respond to everything that she was facing at once. When Yomaris came to us a year ago, she was unemployed, and while she was here legally in the country, she was not yet a U.S. citizen, and she was completely alone. Over the past year, we helped her find work, secure housing, and navigate what is sometimes a very complex citizenship process. In August, she proudly passed her citizenship exam, which she took in English, and she's now taking financial literacy classes and saving to buy her first home. Yomaris is living the American dream and contributing to the very system that could have easily have trapped her. And finally, Alyssa, a single mom of 3 who came to us while living in a homeless shelter. She needed childcare and a job and housing and hope. With help from our self-sufficiency coordinator, Corey, she found all of that and more. Alyssa has stable housing. She now has steady work, and she plans to attend college. And I had the opportunity to talk to Alyssa, and I asked her what made the biggest difference, and she said, I quote, "Corey's belief in me helped me believe in myself again." Each of these stories represents thousands more you will never hear, but they all share one thing in common. They all happen because of community action and CSBG. CSBG is not just another funding stream. It allows community action agencies to respond in real time and to see people and not problems, and to turn moments of crisis into stories of resilience. It lets us act quickly and humanely before crisis becomes catastrophic. Community action agencies are not just service providers. We are community builders, partners, and problem solvers who see the full picture and walk alongside families every step of the way. But we don't have that impact alone. CSBG also allows us to create innovative and strategic partnerships which leverage resources to meet community needs. At Tri-County Community Action, some of these partnerships include with managed care plans and healthcare systems, county human service providers, banking and financial management partners, local law enforcement, school districts, faith-based providers, community members, and so many more. And that's what CSBG does. It connects the dots between safety and education, health, community, economic mobility, and hope. Transformation like this doesn't happen by chance. It happens because CSBG gives us the continuity and flexibility to walk with people from crisis to stability and beyond. So I also would like to thank you all for investing in this work. It does change lives every day. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. My thanks to all 3 of you as well for the fine work you've been doing and how you're helping people in need in your communities as well. It's commended, to be commended. We will now turn to questions from the members. Representative Kazim, I believe you had a question.
Thank you very much for all of your testimonies and your efforts and hard work that you are doing across Pennsylvania to make sure our families are prioritized with their needs. So my first question is, Ms. Jennifer, when will the 2025 Community Need Assessment be completed in your region if it has not been completed?
So we do formal community needs assessments every 3 years. So we just completed one in 24. 2027 will be the next time we do a formal one. However, we are looking at community data all the time, constantly. So while we're not issuing a formal report, we do that every 3 years, we are constantly looking at causes and conditions in our community.
Okay, thank you. Which would lead into my next question for Mr. Beck Moore, I'm sorry. Speaking about the every 3 years that she talked about the needs assessment, I see here where you guys hear directly from residents, employers, and local leaders about the barriers and so forth. How exactly is this collected? Are they doing public hearings? Are you guys just having your own meetings? How do you know that every individual is included in this conversation?
So every agency takes a little bit of a different approach. Part of our role at CAP is to provide some of the technology in which our agencies can access, more than just simply census data and look at deep community needs data through a couple different manners. Our agencies will do focus groups, really intentionally, questionnaires of agencies. I think, I would direct the question back to my fellow panelists to talk a little bit about their local approach, because in my role at the association, our job is really to provide that technology and best practice.
So my last question, which is a follow-up to what you mentioned, as you stated that every agency, and I heard earlier that every agency, community action agencies are ran differently. So when it comes to the association's role, I do see where it says blending, braiding, and building capacity. But what does that look like as far as advocacy to direct agencies in different counties that may have different concerns? So I see your participation, the cohort calls, the online trainings, the 2 statewide events, but outside of that, what does that look like being a direct liaison for the agencies that are dealing with maybe staff shortage, extra community needs that may not look the same for another county? So how do you guys play a role in that? And what does that performance support look like for them?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So we ask a lot of questions.
Yeah,
and
so
we-
I just put the 2 together.
Yeah.
So you just answer it the best way you can.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. So we ask a lot of questions and do a lot of listening to try to understand what's happening. Whenever possible, we're providing best practices. So if you look at our conference, for instance, which is actually, we're leaving here, going directly to that conference in Lancaster, we draw from the experiences of our agencies. So folks from both of the teams up here are going to be speaking and sharing about the great things that they are doing so that they can learn from one another. Our approach to training and technical assistance really looks at the variety of staff, where they are in their career, where they are in their positions, right, and tries to really ask where they need help and assistance and where we see agencies struggling. So part of what DCED mentioned before was the risk assessments that are happening on a regular basis. We partner with DCED to review those and look to see where are there preventative actions that we can take so that that challenge or problem doesn't continue to get larger and bigger, and try to basically, stop a larger problem from happening. So when we're seeing a particular issue start to bubble up, we will go so far as to contract with a local consultant if we don't have the internal expertise, and work directly with that agency to help fix whatever the problem is that's happening. That could be something as simple as reviewing bylaws, it could be helping to recruit board members, or it could be going and doing a forensic audit alongside that agency to understand where there might have been a fiscal challenge that happened. In one instance, I served as interim executive director of one of our agencies for almost 6 months to just try to help understand what the long-term capacity of that agency was going to be. So part of our role is really, it's not a one-stop shop approach, right? We try to really listen and learn from our agencies and figure out how to best support them along the way, and all the while, right, looking at best practices and how to infuse those back into our overall network.
Okay, so it's kind of by discretion whether you might go to DCED about it or whether it's in-house that you feel like you guys can solve.
We're very transparent with DCED, and we're thankful for the relationship that we have. I want to make sure to just note that our relationship with our office that administers CSBG is very different than the other states in the country. We have a remarkable relationship where we're very transparent about what's happening, and oftentimes we'll come together and brainstorm. So we meet on a monthly basis to talk about kind of what we're hearing and talk through, here's what we're thinking our approach is going to be. They might agree, they might disagree, and then we'll work together to figure out what that solution might be.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I hope we can go into a direction where we add a little more, because I'm still trying to figure out, once DCED get that point, how do we get back to us? Because we hear directly from the agencies about their needs and concerns. So I'm not hearing from the other side of the department. So I would like to know how that loophole works out, just to make sure we get a better understanding. So thank you very much. That's it for me, Chair.
I thank the lady for her questions. Representative Haddock, you had some questions?
Thank you. One of the things I heard with your testimony in the prior panel, and I really have to give a tremendous shout out. A lot of times we hear in Harrisburg, oh, take the money and just keep wanting more. When I heard 50-50, 42-48% with private governmental money, that's fabulous. It shows that you guys are out in the community raising the money to continue the mission, and you're not looking for a handout from the state of Pennsylvania. So that's fabulous. But the one thing that really stuck out was, Beck, wow, you talked about taking $460,000 and parlaying that into $29 million into grants. That's about a 60 times value for the money that comes from the state through the program. So we appreciate that. Can you elaborate on just an instance of time? What is an example of how you take the money and parlay it with other monies?
No, thank you for that question. And that example actually comes from Center for Community Action, our agency, who is the community action designated organization for Huntington County and a number of other counties. Wendy Melius provided some written testimony, which I believe is on the table over there for you all. But what Wendy has done is continue to grow contracts and supports across a multitude of counties. So while she's the community action agency for a few counties, she's grown her services across 15. And so I think what's really remarkable about this network of providers is that unlike, I've been in nonprofit for almost 23 years at this point, and unlike the ego that exists oftentimes in other sectors, I think what's really remarkable about community action is where one agency stops and recognizes that they can't continue to grow, another one will pick up, or there'll be a partnership that's established in order to look at, we see and know that there's a need for transportation, for instance, in this particular county. We can't solve it, but the next county over, their agency can. And so that's part of what Center for Community Action and Wendy Melius has done there pretty dramatically. She operates the Medical Assistance Transportation Program, for instance, for I believe it's 8 counties. And so she's really looking at what are they doing really well and continuing to be able to grow those services across multiple counties.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank the gentleman for his comments and questions. Are there other members who have questions at this time? If not, I'll turn to Chairman Miller.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'm going to ask you a question that I asked the previous panel. They're in the room, but they're not hearing anything right now. Just want to know, from your standpoint, because they're kind of the administration and you're on the boots on the ground kind of level, what is working well and what is not working well?
So I'll answer that question briefly and then turn it to my colleagues here. I think number one, something I mentioned before, is our relationship with DCED and the great working relationship that we have. Number two, I would say that we're recognized, Pennsylvania in general, and the Community Action Network is recognized as an innovator across the country in community action. Our partnerships in particular with healthcare and the growing number of contracts Jennifer mentioned with managed care organizations has been something that we know, to the question before from Representative Haddock about how those contracts have grown, how those dollars have multiplied. And that's really because of the innovation and looking at, within the program structure of what our agencies are doing, what are there other naturally occurring opportunities to help individuals within our community. And we know that health is not just dictated by our genetic code, it's dictated by our zip code and the resources that we have available to us. And so our agencies are thinking about, how can I continue to grow my reach, which also means paying for the services that they're already providing and growing the reach that they have.
And I would say what's working well is being able to use the CSBG funding to diversify across many of our programs. So we have programs that help people to buy their first homes. We have programs that help people to start new businesses or to expand existing businesses. We, have homeless services that are helping people to get back on their feet because they never planned to be homeless. So that flexible funding that helps us to help people have a hand up and to build wealth and to do better things in their lives, those are the things that are working really well. The things that are not working so well is that in a lot of our funding, so as a nonprofit, we rely on the generosity of other people. We don't make widgets, and therefore the more widgets we make, we do better. We have to rely on our neighbors and our funders and our donors to help support our programs, and much of the funding that we received, other than CSBG, will help pay for the programming, but not for the staff that delivers the programming. So CSBG funding allows us to be able to pay our staff who actually are the boots on the ground doing the work. So we could use more flexible funding because as we're not independently wealthy, we are looking for our neighbors to help assist us in giving those programs to the community that help the people get a hand up and not a handout.
Yeah, and so I don't repeat what the panelists said about the flexibility of CSBG. I will give you a couple of different things I think are going really well. One is our state association. So the reality is we have contacted them and said, we need training for our home visitors on home visitor safety and what's out there isn't working for us because we need it to be delivered in a certain manner or cover certain topics. And CAP has been able to go out, find experts in those areas and develop training programs that we can then use for our staff at no cost that they could then market to other states who say, hey, this is a really good training program. And it applies to more than just the home visitors at Tri-County Community Action. So I think that works really well, is we can reach out and say, we have a specific need, and we have the resources in Pennsylvania through CAP and DCED to meet that need. The other part of that is the relationship with DCED, I think works really well, is although they administer and therefore monitor us as grantees of the block grant, there are times that I also can call CSBG or DCED and say, is anybody else in the state doing this that you know of? Or do you know of how I can maybe piggyback on CDBG or Neighborhood Assistance Program or something else and to meet a need? And DCED is an incredible resource in that way as our partner and helping us identify creative ways to meet needs. So I would say that is, again, speaks to the relationship that DCED has built with us as local agencies that, as Beck said, is really unique to Pennsylvania. What doesn't work well is something beyond everybody's control, unfortunately. And the challenge with CSBG is we are also legislatively required to each year provide a work plan and identify goals that we want to work towards or address in our community each year so that we can direct that funding. But when our federal government is either not passing a budget on time or passing continuing resolutions, we don't know when funding is going to be received necessarily. So I think a little bit of that was talked about when DCD was up here is our allocations are given when the federal government releases funds to the state, and sometimes that haphazard schedule can make it difficult for us to plan and carry through with those plans when we don't necessarily know what that funding release is, and that's beyond the control of anybody in this room.
Okay. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I thank the chairman for his comments and questions. Just a couple of follow-up questions on my part, if I may. It strikes me that, obviously from the testimony we've heard today from both panels, that the flexibility of the CSBG money is really one of your key strengths. It allows you to respond quickly to needs on the ground, to various populations that you serve as those needs shift due to other factors. Do you also find yourself in an advantageous position in that as the sort of premier social service organization within your regions, you are oftentimes collaborating with other social service agencies that are not CA affiliated?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
We, one of the metrics that we track as community action agencies is how many partnerships we have and who those partnerships are with. And at Tri-County Community Action, we have over 115 documented partnerships. And many of those are other service providers in our three-county footprint beyond the ones that I mentioned in my testimony. We don't do what we do alone. And CSBG gives us the flexibility to connect with other service providers, and we provide our piece to the puzzle, they provide their piece to the puzzle. Maybe a third or fourth or a fifth service provider comes in, and collectively we put that puzzle together. So absolutely.
And if you look at in our impact report that I'll send with our written testimony for you to review, I think at last look, Community Action partnered with over 10,000 different partners in the last year. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the network of the 42 agencies, that's in totality the number of relationships that they have. And so part of what we're really trying to do is think about how to ensure that Community Action is at the forefront of a community care hub model in the future. So we know that those relationships already exist.
Yeah. And as Beck said earlier, the things we can't do, we partner with other agencies that are able to do it, and that's what makes it so impactful.
And you guys really are the go-to agency. I know in our district office, we oftentimes turn to you first if there's a social service need. And if you don't have the program or can't address the issue at hand, you're always very helpful in trying to direct us to another agency or source of help for the constituent. Just as a little follow-up, and then I won't hold you much longer. In terms of some of your programming, you mentioned that housing and nutrition, or housing and food, are probably the two key issues that you're challenged by these days. I assume also when it comes to food, part of the changes to SNAP is affecting your ability to provide that service as well. What other key areas would you see as your biggest challenges in addition to housing and food?
I think what Jen said, we don't have childcare at our particular agency, but childcare is a huge issue, especially with the work requirements that are about to happen. There are grandparents who watch their grandchildren so that their parents can go to work, and as the work requirements are implemented, those grandparents, if they're under 64, they won't be able to watch those children anymore. So I think Jen actually said the cost of childcare per month and per year for families, it was $14,000 a year, and that's for one child. So if you're a family that has 2 or 3 children, that can impact you dramatically on whether or not, so if my SNAP is affected and I'm also trying to go to work and care for children, that's all going to start hitting our communities very hard in the near future.
And I imagine, too, you touched, I believe in your comments earlier about transportation. With the cutbacks that many mass transit systems are facing, or at least fare increases, I assume that's becoming an acute issue as well.
Absolutely, especially in counties that don't have very good transportation. Parents have to get on several buses to get those children to their destinations before they can then get to their jobs. So it could take 2 and 3 hours just, in the transportation part of a day.
And further point of collaboration, too, in terms of employment and job training, I assume you all work closely with your community colleges in your area?
Yes.
Yeah, I know in the Lehigh Valley, we're very fortunate with Northampton Community College, does an excellent job at job training, and has some great programs, teach people to be welders or machinists, beauticians, or even nurses, which can open the door to a lot of employment options.
Yeah, that's really important.
I do want to call out that in the written testimony that Rochelle Abbott is providing from STEP Inc., they serve Lycoming and Clinton counties. There are 2 really remarkable best practice examples of childcare work that's through a substitute aid pool as well as a rideshare program, and I'm sure those are in her comments, but would really encourage folks to review that written testimony.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And finally, in terms of one of the services, since a lot of the population you serve may have been homeless or been from a family that was not at its best in terms of its support system, do you find that you have to teach basic skills, living skills like banking skills, nutrition, how to cook, things of that nature, that seem very simple but are very critical to the health of a family or to an individual?
Yeah, we have the largest family homeless shelter in the region, which has 25 apartments that allow families not to have to share kitchens and bathrooms with strangers, and we offer supportive services while they're there. We partner with banks that teach them how to, balance an account, assuming that they will have one again at some point. We teach them how to parent well so that they're using other choices in how they're parenting their children, aside from, harsh ways that I know I grew up in. We want them to have all the supportive services that are going to teach them how to get back out into society and do better than they are doing now, and help them to create that stability that they need to get their own apartments and to get back on their feet. That's the important part of what we do. We don't just offer them a place to, crash for 60 to 90 days. We want them to learn all of the skills necessary to be able to become, givers to society and be back on their feet in a vital way. So, yes.
And I imagine even today teaching nutrition, how to cook.
Oh, absolutely.
It's important to get the food, but if you don't have a history or extended family that taught you how to cook, you might not be making the best judgments in terms of how to use the food, utilize it the best, and how to make sure your families are receiving
so-
proper nutrition.
Yeah, we're trying to provide healthy foods to families so that they're not visiting hospitals as often, so that they understand. A lot of them don't know what a lot of these vegetables are that we're giving them through our food pantries. It's like, what is this squash? What is this eggplant? We've never had to deal
What
with
do
it.
you do with it? Yeah.
Yeah, so we give them recipes to go along with those important staples and vegetables that they may have never seen before. Yeah.
And my final question deals with the issue of mental health. Have you seen an uptick in terms of the number of clients who need mental health services, and are they readily available?
Well, at Community Action, we partnered with a couple of local banks who gave us funding for mental health. And so we provide online and in-person mental health services to people who are in our shelters or whoever needs it. Because, yes, we have absolutely seen an uptick, even since the pandemic, in mental health instability.
We've seen that even in our district office in terms of constituents to come to us and how they need that support system. Oftentimes, it's tough to find. It really is in terms of that service. Well, thank you for the great work you guys do, and thank you for your testimony today. It was most helpful. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
I just want to note for the record, too, that we will be receiving written testimony from Wendy Mellis, Executive Director for the Center for Community Action, that covers Bedford, Blair, Cambria, Franklin, Fulton, Huntington, Indiana, Juniata, Mifflin, and Somerset counties. Also from Achel Abbott, who is President and Chief Executive Officer for the Lycoming Clinton Counties Commission for Community Action, and Mandy Welty Zalich, Chief Executive Officer for Westmoreland's Community Action. We anticipate getting that testimony at a later date, and it will be distributed to the members for their information. But again, thank you very much for your testimony today. It's much appreciated, as well as the previous panel. It's been most enlightening, and again, to thank you all for the good work you do to help those in need in our communities.
Thank you.
With that, this hearing comes to a conclusion, and we will adjourn.